Good evening and thank you for joining us. Thunder Bay Police are investigating a fatal collision that occurred on the city's north side early this morning.
First responders were called to the corner of Lion Boulevard and Rita Street after a vehicle struck a tree. Acting Traffic Sergeant Tom Armstrong confirms that a Thunder Bay woman in the passenger seat was killed in the crash.
Around 2:30 this morning, we received a call for a motor vehicle collision here on Lion Boulevard. Thunder Bay Police, along with Thunder Bay Fire Rescue and Superior North EMS, all attended. It was a single motor vehicle, and unfortunately, as a result of the collision, a 34-year-old female has passed away as a result of this accident.
The driver of the car, a 35-year-old city man, was admitted to Thunder Bay Regional with what are believed to be serious but non-life-threatening injuries. Armstrong says the man is in police custody at the hospital as criminal charges are pending. And although he won't speculate on what led to the crash, he says the allegations are very serious in nature.
The male driver was taken into custody shortly after the collision, and the investigation is still ongoing. We might have more information to release tomorrow, but at the time we anticipate some charges being laid and that individual appearing before the courts tomorrow. We're looking at some charges of impaired operation causing death, dangerous driving causing death, and failed to remain at the scene of a collision causing death.
The investigation into the fatal crash led to road closures around Lion Boulevard and Rita Street. The public had been asked to avoid the area, but those roadways have now reopened.
It's the biggest spending plan in Ontario's history, and it comes in a year of tough economic times.
The Ford government unveiled its budget for the year ahead today, promising to invest heavily in a few key areas. Siobhan Morris has more.
Called Building a Strong Ontario, this is a budget with a heavy emphasis on support for industry in turbulent economic times.
And while our economy has remained resilient, the seas around us are stormy. That's why our government is continuing to take a responsible, targeted approach with our plan.
The biggest spending plan in the province's history, eclipsing last year's record setter. The budget includes $205 billion in spending, $6 billion more than last year. Healthcare represents about 40% at $81 billion, followed by other programs and education. Even with more money going out the door, there are no new big splashy promises.
I've never seen a government so gleefully celebrating mediocrity. This budget isn't really worth the paper it's printed on.
A budget the opposition says doesn't meet the challenges Ontarians are facing. There are plans to pull workers from abroad, train workers in the skilled trades, and a manufacturer's tax credit. In the strained healthcare sector, there's $41 million in new cash to hire supervisors for new nurses, hang on to mid to late career nurses, and license internationally trained doctors. Other key investments include $425 million over 3 years for mental health and addiction help, $800 million more in hospital funding, and $72 million to cover OHIP fees at private surgical clinics. The province's deficit has shrunk, with more cash coming in from higher inflation. The deficit for this year will wind up at about $2 billion, almost $18 million less than planned. Next year, the deficit shrinks to $1 billion before 2 years of surplus leading up to the next election. Ontario's capital spending plan is bigger, though no new projects have been added. The government will spend $184 billion over the next decade to improve and build highways, transit, schools, and hospitals. At Queen's Park, Siobhan Morris, CTV News.
Representatives from 17 municipalities in the Thunder Bay District are gathering today and tomorrow at the Prince Arthur Hotel.
The annual meeting of the Thunder Bay District Municipal League has area leaders working together to lobby the province to bring about important changes for the region. Vasilios Bellos reports.
For the first time since the beginning of the pandemic, the Thunder Bay District Municipal League was able to meet in person once again.
If you're still excited about it, you see that not only with your passion about serving your community, but with your other members and the passions about whatever issue they're bringing forward.
83 participants from 17 municipalities around the district have come to the Prince Arthur Hotel for the two-day event to discuss some of the issues having a significant impact on the region. Marathon Mayor and longtime TBDML President Rick Dumas speaks to the importance of these discussions, which recognize both the positives and negatives affecting the district.
We're all going to see some real struggles over the next couple years, but we're also going to see some huge benefits in the mining sector growth, the economic growth, the opportunities. So there's opportunities, there's going to be some struggles, And by coming together with this type of event, we can all work together and see what those important issues are to bring to the Government of Ontario for resolution.
The presentation that highlighted day one was given by Cynthia Olson, Thunder Bay's drug strategy lead. Olson says being able to have such a range of leaders discuss the worsening drug crisis is crucial, especially considering the concerns are being felt across the district.
There's a lot of issues that are certainly impacting our local community in the city of Thunder Bay, as well as the outlying areas and the district. We're seeing it across Ontario and across Canada. So the more that we have individuals that are aware and able to maybe advance some of these at other areas, that's a benefit to the province.
The second and final day of the conference kicks off Friday morning at 9. On the agenda is a presentation from Superior North EMS Chief Shane Muir, providing an update on their services after a plan was approved to consolidate bases in the district. Along with this, the two local MPPs, New Democrat Lise Vaugeois and PC member Kevin Holland, will be speaking in the early afternoon. Vasilios Bellows, TBT News.
Shaw customers across the Northwest dealt with a major service outage this morning, and while customers in Thunder Bay seem to have their cable, internet, and home phones working again, Shaw's website says the repairs continue. The outage began around 8:30 this morning, affecting Shaw customers in 13 communities spanning from Kenora to Sault Ste. Marie. Shaw's website says all of its various services were impacted. As of 3 p.m., the website reported that technicians were still working to resolve the issues due to the complexity of the outage. Shaw officials say it was the result of an equipment failure, and all services are currently back online.
The Executive Director of the Ontario Native Women's Association is back at the United Nations, this time attending the 2023 Water Conference. Cora Maguire-Surrett traveled from Thunder Bay to the UN headquarters in New York City to take part in discussions on how private and governmental organizations can improve their handling of water as a resource.
I think during the pandemic, it really became very apparent. It was in your face that not everybody had access to clean drinking water. And not everybody had access to what they call wash services, right, to be able to have healthy sanitization, because that's a big part of the pandemic that we had just all faced.
Maguire-Surrett says 28 Indigenous communities across Canada are currently impacted by limited access to clean drinking water and proper sanitation. And that's one of the main factors leading to Indigenous people living 10 years less than the average Canadian. Because of that, she believes investing in water is an investment for a more sustainable future.
We really need to make sure that there's a world worth living in the future. And the call to action is now, because the research and evidence is showing that we need to put forward 4 times our effort that we're currently doing now in order to meet the 2030 goal. And if we don't meet that goal, we don't know what type of future we're leaving for our grandchildren's grandchildren.
The UN wants to ensure universal access to drinking water, sanitation, hygiene by the year 2030.
Matawa community members who were entitled to compensation as part of the $8 billion federal drinking water settlement are getting some help with their applications at this hour. The local Matawa office on South Court Street is holding a walk-in clinic until 7 o'clock this evening. To be eligible for compensation, First Nations members must have lived for at least a year between 1995 and 2021 in a First Nation under a drinking water advisory. That includes most of the 9 Matawa communities. Staff at the walk-in clinic can help any Matawa member apply for themselves or their dependents in English or Anishinaabemowin.
It's actually not that complicated. All people do is they come in, it's just the basic information, which First Nation they were on and when, the dates, and then it's just we need your government ID, your direct deposit, and then we send it off.
The deadline to apply was recently extended until March 7th of next year, and Jourdain is confident they'll have plenty of time to get the applications in for everyone who wants to join the settlement. She encourages Matawa members to reach out to the organization for support with their applications.
The indoor ice rink Red Rock has been closed all season due to an ammonia leak. But rather than invest around $100,000 to repair just the ice plant, the township decided instead to perform major upgrades at the entire recreation center after receiving $1.3 million from two separate provincial and federal programs. Darkise Robinson has been bowling at the facility long before she was mayor of the township. Now that funding has arrived, she's excited about the long overdue upgrades, which include a new bowling alley, a new Zamboni, and the needed repairs to the ice rink. Thanks to the grants, new features are being added to the building, which aim to improve accessibility. Exterior maintenance is being performed on the building, and work on the ice rink will begin this summer.
We received $1.3 million from ICIP funding and the CCR. This is going to be a big overhaul. So what we're going to see is a basically brand new bowling alley, plus other things. But the bowling alley is really what we're excited for. New gutters, new lanes, approaches, and automatic scoring.
If all goes according to plan, the township hopes to see the ice rink reopened and being groomed by the new Zamboni by this fall.
Well, turning to weather now, Fiona, what a difference a day makes. Yesterday we were digging out, and today I enjoyed the sunshine out there anyway.
Oh, it was beautiful today. Lots of sunshine. We started out the day at -7 and a wind chill of -13. We warmed up above the freezing mark, a very nice, comfortable 2 Celsius. But with winds from the northwest 16 to 36 kilometers per hour, it didn't always feel quite as warm as some of us might like. But all in all, it was a beautiful day. To the west, it was a cold night, and Fort Frances started the day at 7 a.m. with temperatures hitting -20 Celsius. It was cold to the west. Now, right now, they've warmed up quite beautifully. They too are on the plus side at 1, Kenora at -1, Dryden at +1, as is Red Lake. It wasn't quite as cold this morning, -16, but all in all, lots of sunshine and nice plus side temperatures to the northwest. As you head eastward, it's a little cooler. It actually wasn't as cold to the northeast as it was to the northwest overnight, but they didn't warm up quite as much. And Greenstone has been dealing with some light snow all day. And as we head down to Sault Ste. Marie, well, they too saw periods of light snow off and on throughout the day, but temperatures have been hovering for the last about 8 to 12 hours, right around the freezing mark, -1 or so. Now, currently in the city of Thunder Bay, we are under clear skies, and those clear skies are going to set the stage for a cooler night again. -12 and wind chills of -18. Without any cloud, there's nothing to hold in any of the heat, and you just end up with a very cool night. However, we have some nice milder air pushing in to the Great Lakes, and that's going to make a nice, comfortable day for Friday. And as we head into the weekend, more sunshine and more mild temperatures. I'll have more details on that later on in the news hour.
Okay, thanks a lot, Fiona. Well, a former Liberal MP is now sitting as an independent amid allegations of Chinese interference. He's actually accused of trying to persuade Beijing to delay the release of those detained Canadians, Michael Spavor and Michael Kovrig, a few years back. We'll have all the details for you when your news hour continues right after this.
What has been reported is false, and I will defend myself against these absolutely untrue claims.